What's going on, everybody? It's David. Last week, I led a class titled Do Less, Breathe More. This week, in our Off the Mat conversation, Kyle and I are discussing what it looks like to do less and breathe more, not just in our yoga practice, but also in our life off of the mat. Now, quite honestly, neither one of us has it completely figured out, but I still think there's a lot of really good takeaways from this conversation. So, thank you so much for being here today, and let's just jump right into it.
Welcome to the Yoga Pod Class. I'm Kyle. This is a screen-free yoga podcast. Some weeks we guide you through practice, and other weeks we explore how patterns we notice on the mat show up in our daily lives.
And I'm David. Whether you're here for the movement or the meaning, we've got you covered. Thanks for being here. Let's dive in.
Welcome back, everybody, to our Off the Mat conversation, where we dive a little bit deeper into some of the patterns that show up on the mat and explore how they show up in daily life. But before we get into that, a couple housekeeping topics here. First, if you're interested in the retreat, there's still a few spots left. You can check out all the details at yogapodclass.com. In addition to that, we had, David, I know you got a chance to listen to it, but we had our first chime in, and that's a new feature that we set up on our website so that we can hear all of your voices. And if you've got something to say, something to share, a question to ask, it's a great place to go and send over to us. But we had Trudy from France, who I was so happy to learn has been practicing or listening to this podcast and taking these classes since the pandemic. And that's a long time. So Trudy, thank you. Thank you for being a listener. Thank you for being here. I was so excited to hear your voice because I see your comments on some of our classes, and I was so excited to hear your voice. And Trudy asked for requests, and she asked for a little bit longer of a class, maybe like an hour practice. And so, sure, I think why not? So the next class that I teach will be an hour-long class, and yeah, just for Trudy. So thanks for being there.
Anyone else can take it though, too, right?
Oh yeah, and this is
for Trudy
absolutely.
only.
This class is for anybody, but we can thank Trudy for it. So David, first of all, I took your class, and I didn't take it as much as I'd like because I was at a music festival for most of the week. But first of all, great class. I really liked the simplicity of it, and I liked the focus on the breath, and yeah, it was really good. So great job.
Thank you so much. When I was making it and making the sequence, I was like, I feel like this is something Kyle would teach. So I had a feeling it would be up your alley.
Yeah. No, it definitely is. When you think about this type of class, right? What do you think was like the hardest part of teaching like this type of restraint, in a style of class that's usually what we do is built a little bit more around effort. How was that experience for you in kind of stretching your teaching style?
I think it wasn't really challenging per se, as much as it felt like I was just kind of maybe coloring outside the lines of what I typically do as a teacher, because I definitely lean into the masculine energy, the rah-rah, the uplifting, let's build that heat, let's come and let's get work done. But I think some of my best classes are when I really invite people into the softness as well, because I think there's room for both.
Yeah.
And it's just been a really big priority for me in my teaching and in my personal practice to really cultivate the breath. And sometimes the heat can get built so much internally that we just kind of kick the breath to the wayside. And I wanted to bring that back to the forefront.
Yeah. How did it feel?
It felt great. And really, this is how I've been teaching since recording this class a couple of weeks ago. This has been coming through in my teaching within my in-person classes as well. And it feels great. It feels great to kind of give people the permission to back off a little bit, and while also at the same time acknowledging that doesn't necessarily mean that the class needs to be easy or that you're not putting in effort.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. How have you seen the class respond? Have you noticed a difference in, maybe the amount of energy they exert or their breath or anything like that?
Breath is certainly what I've been noticing and hearing the most. I've also been cueing it a lot more and really trying to bring the attention to that. So I think that's playing into it as well. But with the simplicity of this class for the pod class, I've also been teaching a relatively simple class as well for the in-person classes, just so there's really like this room to breathe
Yeah.
and really focus on the ujjayi breath and really what we get from not just having the audible part of the breath, but also the texture and what that does for us in the poses.
Yeah, yeah. I like what you're saying there about just kind of giving some space, giving some room, And I think that's really important. I think that we try to, I think, fit in a lot into yoga classes, right? I went through this, I think, kind of like, I think when I was a younger teacher, I wanted to like have the fun transitions and the cool sequencing and things like that. And there's this time and space for that, and that can be fun. Um, but it can be just as impactful. You can get just same amount of work done and do less if you want to,
Absolutely. With that, I think we're aligned with the way we like to practice and teach. There's other styles of yoga where the big transitions and the mandalas and the flow and the handstands and all that stuff. Love all those things, don't get me wrong. But I've what I'm noticing is a lot of the times that can make the practice feel like this external thing, like this performance, like I'm
Ooh.
creating these shapes in my body.
Yeah.
And a reframe that I've been working into my practice and in my teaching is making it an internal practice. How does this feel? And really why am I even doing this in the first place? Am I doing yoga because I'm trying to perform and I'm trying to create shapes, or am I doing yoga because I'm trying to improve my life, whether that's nervous system regulation or, build strength and flexibility. And sometimes when the class gets a little excessive, I think it kind of takes away from, what we're really trying to do here.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I think that there's a lot of, I don't think answers. I think things don't come to us when we're really busy and we're moving. Things come to us when we're silent or still. So I think that those are those times. I think in those moments of stillness is when personally I have the most insights and I have the most awareness of how I'm showing, those patterns that we talk about. Oh, why do I want to come out of this right now? I don't need to. You know, those little things kind of come up in those moments of stillness. If it's your point, if I'm like just going through the postures like crazy, like that's I'm not thinking about any of that stuff. So
Absolutely. I remember that one of the first times I took your classes, you held us in Warrior 2, easily the longest I had ever held a Warrior 2 at that time in my
yeah.
life. And you're just like cueing the breath, and I'm just like there, like shaking, like, can I please straighten my leg, my front leg?
The answer is yes, anytime you want.
Yeah, I know. But you know me, I had to win the pose when I was younger,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, I think that's a good, like, I mean, let's talk a little bit about how that shows up in your practice. Like, think about that moment that you had in my class, years ago. Gosh, when was that, by the way? I mean, that must have been
That
like,
was 2019 is when we
wow.
met.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So a long time ago. Um, and kind of winning the pose and the depth and the pushing and things like that. It sounds like you're kind of in a different space right now. Like, uh, right? Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, I would say I kind of fluctuate. I'll be honest
Yeah.
with you. I'm reading a book right now called The Heart of Yoga by Desikachar, and
Okay.
it's really kind of turning my perspective to really start focusing on the internal part of the practice,
Okay.
where I know I for sure fluctuate from like really wanting to go for the big shapes and the depth and the advanced options. But right now I'm really working on, kind of why am I even doing this in the first place?
Okay.
What's the what's the point of doing this? And the point for me is not necessarily to do all these big shapes as much as it is to
Yeah.
improve my life as a whole.
Okay. And so what is that? Do you see any correlations between that and what you taught this week? I mean, because if you're in this book and, kind of hearing a lot of parallels.
Yeah. Yes. 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. So how is that showing up in your practice?
The big thing for me, and I touched on this just a few moments ago, was when it comes to Ujjayi pranayama, or our breath that we utilize throughout class, there's two main advantages to it, and it's the audible, the sound that we hear within the pose, and that helps us kind of take inventory and notice, do I want to go deeper in this pose?
Mm.
If I can't hear my breath, well, maybe I should probably back off a little bit.
Yeah.
And the other side of it is the texture of the breath. And what's great about having that texture within the breath is it kind of creates this alertness and this awareness within the body so we can feel a little bit more into the shapes that we're creating.
Okay. I like that a lot. Where does that show up in you in a practice for you? Is there a certain pose or something like that that you kind of notice this in?
I would say I notice losing it the most during a flow,
Okay.
during the breath to movement. Sun A, it's pretty, I would say, still pretty easy to maintain
Yeah.
the breath to movement. Still not really haven't built that much heat yet. But if we're getting into an excessive, or not even an excessive sun B, just like a strong, high energy sun B, I find it to be really easy to kind of forget about the breath or start breathing out of my mouth or just start going through the motions where, again, the breath just kind of goes into the back seat. Now, I will say it is really hard to
Yeah.
maintain ujjayi breath through a vinyasa class, but
Yep.
it's been an interesting journey to try to implement that into the flow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. I mean, once the heart rate starts to go up, things like that, I think it's hard to keep one breath, one movement.
Yeah.
But yeah, we still cue it,
Yeah,
but
and I think it's we cue it. I cue it still, and I think as a student, that's where it's really important to kind of take that seat of the teacher for yourself and
yeah,
knowing when to back off a little bit. And what that looks like for me is slowing down my movements within the flow, within the sun B. So, not just going right leg high and I kick my leg up as fast as I can, and low lunge and I step
yeah,
through as fast as I can, but also not needing to go fully into the pose. I don't need to go into the deepest warrior two and then the deepest
Mm.
reverse warrior. But the other thing that I've been finding to be really effective, a classic high to low plank chaturanga transition
yep,
sometimes comes from like a reverse warrior, reverse triangle. To
yeah,
go from inhale reverse warrior
yeah.
down to a low plank in one breath
Nope.
is it's really challenging. So I've been breaking that up into something like inhale reverse warrior, exhale low lunge, inhale high plank, exhale low plank.
Yeah,
And that way I can still really maintain that full breath. I might fall behind a little bit, but again, that's where you take the seat of the teacher is you back off a little bit
yep,
so you can go at your pace with your breath.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. And that's actually how I teach. I always teach exhale high plank pose, and then inhale prepare, exhale chaturanga. And yeah, because I've never been able to do one breath from like a reverse warrior, especially in the middle of a flow, all the way through a chaturanga. It's like
It,
impossible.
right. If
So it's
if
like, why
I'm
am I
like
teaching something if I can't if I
yeah,
can't do it?
if I'm 100% rested, maybe, but that's a really really long active
And then
exhale.
and then I think you're pushing out so much air than an up dog. You can't take a really full breath in an up dog
Mm,
anyway. So it's like then you're like, and then exhale down dog. It just don't
yeah.
feel good in my body. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point too. Really good
yeah,
point.
yeah. So then with that, then what have you noticed? Like, how has it changed your practice, in working from the inside and, kind of just focusing on this? Have you noticed a difference? Are you walking away from class a little bit feeling any different? Are you, feeling more energized, less depleted? Anything that you're noticing by making these subtle changes?
I would say I don't get to the end of class and feel like I'm as spent as I
Okay.
was.
Yeah.
You know, in previous classes when I would really push it a lot harder, I feel much more like my body feels a little bit better, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
When I'm focusing on these things as well. Let me back up a second. One other thing that I heard in this book, The Heart of Yoga, is
Yeah.
the quality of your breath is a direct indication of the quality of your pose, which I think is so interesting because someone like me, I love the handstands. I love the inversions, and a lot of the times I focus on the breath a lot as the more I get into these things. But a lot of times when you're learning this, you're holding crow pose and you're just like you can't
Yeah.
you can't breathe in it, and it's really interesting. So I've been backing off that part of my practice to really focus on the breath. So I think there's kind of twofold going on here. Of one, I'm slowing my practice down, focusing on the breath, but two, I'm also, the title of the class, Do Less, Breathe More. I'm also doing less, which is leading to me leaving the yoga class feeling a little bit more like the practice worked for me rather than I worked for the practice.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah. Kind of like you gathered energy rather than like gave it all away.
Exactly. And don't get me wrong, a lot of times it feels good to go in there and like
Oh, yeah, just
throw
work it
throw
out.
it down and, and
Yes.
and leave and feel like starched when you get out of there.
Absolutely, yeah. Time and place for everything, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, is there a specific like posture or anything like that that you notice that you kind of like push into
hmm
versus, you know, like letting yourself ease out a little bit? And what's that difference there? What shows up for you?
Yeah, I mentioned all the inversions. Those are definitely one that I
Yeah.
can use, but one in particular that I really notice it in is really any twisted or revolved pose, but
Mhm.
specifically revolved crescent lunge. As I've been getting more and more into the rocket yoga and Ashtanga yoga, there's so much encouragement to go with these larger variations. And revolved crescent lunge is, open wings and
Oh
put
yeah.
your bottom hand down next to your foot. And I can get my hand next to my foot, but I can't breathe when I'm doing that. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it's interesting because it's been a process of probably the last like 8 months where I've been progressively getting deeper and deeper into this pose. And I was like, oh, I can open my arms and get my hand down to the floor. But now I'm coming at it from this perspective of, oh, I can't breathe. I should have my hands start center as I'm easing into this. So I find I'm trying to like strike this balance, and I'd love your advice on this and your thoughts of, yes, the breath is so important, but also, I do also want to expand and find a little bit more depth in the poses such as revolved crescent lunge. So,
Yeah.
what do you recommend with something like that?
I don't know. I mean, the first question I guess that comes to mind is what are you hoping to achieve by more depth?
Yeah, that's that's the exact question that I'm kicking around in my head the last few
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah. It's like sometimes I think I do this too. You know what I mean? Like I used to love revolving crescent lunge. I could open my arms and I could bind. And I loved that
Gnarly.
bind. Man, that was the deepest twist. But I couldn't breathe and I couldn't be there for very long.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
eventually I was like, why am I doing this? And I wanted to do it because it looked fun. It was kind of fancy. It was a fun yoga party trick, kind of like crow pose. And it was this kind of thing that I thought that that's what an advanced yoga practice looked like. And so, I would just say, what is the real purpose to the depth there? Is it a challenge for yourself that you want to get to? And that's okay. But what are you hoping to get from it?
It's a good
Because
question.
because I think that with me at least, uh, it, the quality of the posture is reflected in the breath.
Yes.
The postures that I'm not pressing hard into and I'm breathing, it's like I don't know, like time stands still for a few moments,
hmm
and I can feel my body, and it's just, yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I don't have any advice, but I would say maybe just explore that question of like, what's the purpose of the depth? What's the purpose of, you know, that kind of quote unquote advanced?
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think for me it's this idea of always wanting to kind of grow and improve and expand my practice and to
Yep.
your point, like that's not wrong. That's not a bad thing.
No.
But I'm also asking myself like why?
Well,
What that that
I'm gonna challenge that for a second though,
yeah.
because to me, an advanced practice isn't revolving crescent lunge with a bind. It was at one time, right?
Mhm.
That was for me at one time. I think right now where I'm at in my teaching and my practice is an advanced practice is presence and it's breath and it's form.
Yeah.
It's not depth, you know?
Yeah.
To me, an
I
advanced
totally
practice is somebody that practices with the length of their breath, even though it's a few beats behind or ahead of the teacher, and somebody that moves intentionally through the postures and treats the transitions just as important as the actual postures themselves. Somebody that stays present with their breath, that's advanced to me.
mhm.
So, so you could, I think, when I hear you talking about slowing down, breathing, that to me is growth.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, I see growth in that, is what I'm saying.
yeah, and I agree with you, and that's kind of where I'm landing,
Yeah.
these last few weeks as I've been thinking more and more about that. And I think part of it is, and it's this conversation you and I have had many times on the podcast of like being a teacher in the studio,
Yeah.
wanting to be one of the advanced people in the room and be able to do all the things.
Yeah.
But then what that does is that makes it an external practice, not an internal
That's a
practice.
performance. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So it's been really interesting. This kind of this mental like back and forth I've been having in my head about all these things.
Yeah. I think that's good. I think it's good to challenge paradigms, and kind of like at least reflect on them every now and again and say, is this the story, that I've been telling myself for a long time? Is that story still as true as it was 5 years ago? And maybe it's not. And
Hmm.
it's okay to challenge those and kind of rethink them,
Yeah, yeah,
which is,
absolutely.
which is kind of what it sounds like you're doing.
Yeah,
Because again, growth for me in my yoga practice 20 years ago is much different than growth today. And those things can change and shift over time.
right. The other thing I ask myself a lot of the times with all of this as well is when is the yoga like when is achieving the deeper shape in yoga or the more advanced shape, quote unquote,
Yeah.
in yoga, when is that actually having a negative impact on you? You
Mm.
see some of these like Ashtanga yoga. The Ashtanga yogis can do incredible things with their body to the
Like
point of like
tortoise and stuff.
contortion.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and like foot behind the head, like why do I ever need to put my foot behind my head? What's that? Yeah.
I don't know,
For
David.
those, yeah, Kyle's looking at me and winking right now. Yeah. But
No, you're right.
yeah.
I mean, and you see pictures of, people doing yoga hundreds of years ago or whatever, maybe not hundreds, but, and they're doing that and they're doing the crazy
Yeah.
things. Yeah,
What's
I
that
don't
going
know.
to do though?
I
Is
think it just depends on how you view the practice.
yeah.
I think you can
But
still get all of the same benefits from doing sun salutations, warrior one, warrior two,
right.
triangle, and a twist.
I think the thing I struggle with is like what's your body going to feel like in 20 years after doing something like that? Is this helping you
Yeah.
navigate and move through the world? Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if
Yeah.
that depth all actually going to hurt to a certain
Yeah.
extent.
I don't know if it would hurt. I don't know. I don't know enough about, the body in that way. But, we know flexibility is good, right?
Yeah.
Flexibility is going to help prevent injury. But we also know that like hyper flexibility and hyperextension is not good.
Mm-hmm.
So if it leans into that, then you start relying on the flexibility rather than engagement in the posture. Yeah, maybe
Mm-hmm.
too much of anything can be a bad thing, but that's just kind of my thought. I'm not an expert on it, like I said.
Yeah. Neither am
But
I.
yeah, but but I think that at the end of the day, like I said, we can get all these same benefits from doing less, breathing more, which is a great
Simplicity.
simplicity. Yeah. One thing that I'm curious about is how this starts to show up off of the mat. Because the thing that you said that I really liked is, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but you said something just a moment ago about how the quality of the breath reflects the quality of the posture. Did I say that right?
Yeah, it was something like yeah, the quality of the breath is a direct indication of the quality of the pose.
Okay. I think since I started practicing yoga, I think that I I become much more conscious of the breath outside of the yoga space, outside of the studio. And like I'll be going to bed and wondering why like my thoughts are racing and I'm thinking about work and something I said to somebody or whatever. And
Yep.
and then I'm like, oh, and then I start, okay, then I shift towards the breath. And yeah, it's shallow breath. It's up in my chest. And I'm like, okay, let's take some deep breaths. Let's breathe more intentionally. And all of a sudden my mind starts to calm down and I'm able to go to sleep. So I wonder if there's instances where the quality of our life and the quality of our experiences also can be a direct reflection of the quality. We can still have great experiences. I'm sure you have great experiences and not know how to breathe. But what happens when you're actually breathing, off of the mat as well?
More than anything, it makes you be present. You
Yeah.
you you truly cannot focus on your breath and mentally be somewhere else.
Yeah.
You mentioned laying in bed at night. When you focus on your breath, you're not able to replay that conversation from earlier in the day where you said something. It
Yeah.
slows you down. It brings you back to the moment. So when you utilize that in your day to day, and you were at a music festival this past weekend, I'm sure there were moments where you slowed down, you focused on your breath, and it's
Mm.
like the colors get a little bit brighter.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's just like you're there a little bit more.
Yep. Yeah. You kind of feel your feet on the ground a little bit more. Yeah. And I think it's also really important, like in conversation, when you're listening to somebody, um, during a heated argument or anything like that, that's going to keep you calm, keep you centered, which I think
Mm-hmm.
is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Um, let's come back to the question that we posed for the chime in, but then also that you asked me last week, where you currently overextending and what's making it hard to pull back? Is there something outside of this outside of this space that feels present for you with that question?
Yeah, I think that question came at kind of a timely time for me. One of them was I got back from traveling for a 2 weeks basically where
Oh,
I
you were
was
on the go.
yeah, I was seeing family. I was back in Minnesota, so I was trying to see as many people as I could, and it was just like going, zero time to, you know, disconnect, slow down, be with myself, recharge. And I think there's times where that's just how life's gonna be.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to spend one of those few days I had by myself. I wanted to see as many people as I could.
Yep.
So I do think there's times where it is important to, you know, overextend to a certain extent as
Yeah.
long as you know that there's gonna be some backing off after that.
Yeah. And each of us have a different like battery life,
For
right?
sure.
For that type of activity. Sometimes and you see I feel like you're somebody that can probably give a lot of that energy and not need a ton of time to recharge, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. And there's other people where that takes a little bit more, where they're that social and that output is a lot less and the recharge time is a little bit more. So kind of like what you're saying here is just kind of knowing yourself and understanding, what your needs are.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other area where I really felt this is, and I think this is just like being a product of a Western capitalistic society is just wanting to be so productive, working
Yeah.
out, and just not always wanting to be like filling that time doing something. It's like, oh, I need to be doing my job, but I also need to be making sure I'm going to the gym every day, or whatever it may be. Something um, that's just like I fall into that trap really easily, and it can very quickly become overextending.
Yeah.
And just reminding myself that rest is just as important as exertion has been a really good way for me to kind of take that step back.
Yeah. And it's like what I've been having to remind myself, because I said it in class, I think, is that it's not a reward,
Mm-hmm.
part of the process.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I need to remind myself of that, you know? What do you think is like, what do you, this is kind of like off of what you were just talking about. What do you think is the cost of not having these periods of doing less, these periods of rest, these periods of simplicity? What does that look like for you when, those might kind of get overlooked or not really, given much energy or attention?
It sneaks up on you for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't think we notice it when it's happening in the moment. Maybe it's we take that step back and we're able to reflect on the situation. But for me, it's burnout for
Yeah.
sure. Mental burnout, physical burnout. I'll start to have little nagging injuries in my hands or my shoulders or my hamstrings or something along those lines.
Well, it shows up physically for you.
Yeah, yeah, especially if I'm, overexerting on the physical side of things,
Yeah.
but also mentally when I'm burnt out mentally and I'm just like doing so much, whether it's work and podcasts and teaching
Yeah.
and seeing friends and not taking time to chill, I just I'm not as good of a version of myself. I'm more irritable. I'm not as warm as I should be to my partner Summer,
Yeah.
and I'm probably not doing as good of quality of work when I'm working as well. So it's just like it creeps up, this overexertion in the form of burnout, and then I think that has a lot of different ways to manifest both physically and mentally.
Yeah.
What about
Yeah.
you?
Oh, geez, what does it look like? Uh, um, I end up just kind of like crashing.
Yeah.
And it can kind of come out of nowhere, and um, then all of a sudden it's just like I don't want to talk to anybody. I need some space. I need time. Um, and yeah, it just kind of looks like a sudden crash, and then I probably sleep more than I should or I need to. I mean, I need to sleep more, but like that's kind of like the subject. That's what it looks like. It's like sleeping more, and I'm a stress eater too, so I will eat. um, but yeah,
I
that's
can
kind of what it
totally
looks
relate to
like.
that.
Yeah. Oh, but like a whole Domino's pizza too.
Man, it
No
is damn
problem.
good.
But but I also notice it when like that happens to me when I get stressed. And I think that I will use busyness and I'll use overexertion as an opportunity to not sit with something uncomfortable or something that I need to like deal with emotionally.
Hmm.
Like it's almost a distraction. And then that of course comes back around and, bites me in the ass eventually, but
Yeah, it's a way of numbing for sure.
yeah.
And ultimately you can push it down as much as you want, but eventually it has to, whatever you're feeling, whatever you're trying to escape from, no matter what you're filling it with, substance or work or exercise, eventually it's going to come up and you're going to have to process that.
Yep, it's that whole like what you resist
Yep.
persists.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So then on the flip side of that, is there a difference for you between rest that feels earned and rest that feels like, you know, I don't know, just part of the process or like those, the two types that we're talking about is like kind of it forcing itself on you when you need to, and then that when you just kind of have it as part of the cycle. Do you notice how that, is there a difference in the rest? Is there a difference in that experience?
Yeah, I I know you say, and I've heard this many times, it's like you don't have to earn your rest. Rest is
Right.
not something you have to earn. But
Yeah.
we all know that feeling at the same time when you have you really put in a good day of work or a really good workout or something along those lines where you got a lot of stuff done around the house and then you relax after that. That feels great.
Yeah, yeah,
That is one of my favorite times to rest. However, a lot of the times that's just not possible for one reason or another. I Work is crazy, or you have to take care of family, or whatever has to come up. A lot of the times, some area of your life is going to take away from another area, and with that other area, that time and energy has been taken away from,
yeah,
it can be really hard to feel like you've earned rest when there's dishes in the sink
yeah,
or when you have yard work to take care of or I haven't worked out in the last week and a half or whatever it may be. That rest is still equally as important, and it's kind of been a journey and a process for me to still find the time for that rest
yeah,
because what I'm learning about myself is when I treat rest as important as something like working out, it allows me to earn that other type of rest
yeah,
at a later time. If that
yeah.
if that makes sense.
No, I think yeah, I think I understand. And what is there like? Is there something that's happening in your life where that the intensity or the depth or the busyness you're realizing maybe isn't the point, but you kind of keep going for that anyway?
Yeah, and I mean, not to feed a fed horse, so to speak, but the yoga practice for me, it's at the forefront of my mind, and
Really?
just like movement in general, like working
Okay.
out and everything. But the yoga practice is something where I'm really learning that depth is not the point, but it's something that I keep wanting. I keep wanting to work on the handstands and the binds and all
Yes.
that stuff, and I find it to be really fun, which
Yeah.
to me is like, oh, that's a good enough reason to go for something if you enjoy it and it's fun.
Sure.
But it's also really important to me to remember that it's not the end all be all.
Yeah.
It's not the reason why I do this to begin with, but it's just productivity in general. Yoga, work,
Mm.
and working out. It's kind
But
of
again, you
like
said
I'm
you enjoy it.
yeah.
You see fun in
Yeah.
it, and that's important too, right?
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of, for me, it's kind of the exact opposite where I have a couple friendships that I've kind of realized recently, that I keep trying to like deepen and strengthen and
Mm.
kind of like, and it's just not feeling natural. And just recently I've kind of realized like, okay, maybe that's just, I need to stop forcing this.
Yeah.
When I try to force those things, it never works.
Yeah. That's
Um,
a really good example. I didn't even think of that.
yeah, that felt kind of present for me
I think
with
we can all relate to that in some way where it feels like you're just putting in all the effort into a relationship and
absolutely. Like if I'm always the one calling you to hang out and I'm never
mm-hmm.
getting the phone call, but then again, like sometimes you got to give people the opportunity to call you without calling them first, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But it does really show like if people are interested, that they'll reach out or not.
Yeah.
So, last question I think for you, David, like if you kind of think about the week ahead and the theme of this class was breathe more, do less. What does that look like off the mat, right? Like what does that look like for you? What does that look like, I don't know, for other people?
I think the biggest thing is just like inviting in moments of quiet, moments of stillness, not needing to fill every moment. Like
Mm.
I'm someone who can, oh, I'm taking a shower. Let me turn on a podcast type of
Oh yeah,
thing.
yeah. I always have
And
music going and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, it's like, okay, what if I just allow myself to be in this moment in line at the grocery store? What if I just stand there and breathe a little bit or just notice and take in this moment of life without filling my brain with something at every moment, always needing to be doing something and just allowing
Yeah.
myself to back off a little bit. A little bit of like a mantra that I'm kind of focusing on this week is let things be a little lighter because
Mm.
ease is a practice too.
Yeah. I like that. I love it. I love that. And you know what? I love your examples because I don't know if you noticed, but if you're standing in line at the grocery store and you look up and look around, you will not make eye contact with a single person.
Right?
Everybody's on their phone. You go to the airport, same thing. Everybody's on their phone. It's like it's the weirdest thing when you actually step out of that and look around. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I have
One
a I
area.
I
Go ahead.
I have a challenge for I have a challenge for you, I'll say,
Okay.
or anyone listening. I've done this a few times the last over the last like month or two is I will leave my phone on my nightstand for a whole day. For like a Saturday where I know
Okay.
that like I don't have a lot going on. Now granted I have the luxury of like I'll be with my partner and she'll have
Yeah.
her phone if we need it, but that's been something where it's like okay, my phone is just not going to leave the bedroom today. And if
Oh,
I need my phone, I'm going to go up and use it in the bedroom and then I'm going to leave it there.
interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
I have just the exact opposite rule. I don't like my phone in my bedroom.
Oh, yeah. Totally,
I
totally.
like having I like charging it outside of the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
I read a book once where they were actually talking about how if it's close to you, your brain's always kind of listening for the buzz or the
Mm,
ding or the light, and so you actually sleep better when it's not close to you. But I love your example though. Set aside the phone for the day, see what that's like to
yeah.
unplug and not be available, not be reached. You know, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
One thing that I've noticed it is si- since I got my new dog, right? Did I mention that last week? I don't know if I told everybody.
I don't know if you told everybody about that yet.
Oh, I adopted the sweetest, cutest little dog who I named Sophie. Oh, and she is just the love of my life right now. But and isn't she cute, David? She is like the most.
She's
She is the.
adorable and she's so sweet and
Oh,
she like came really well trained, but also you're great at training dogs, so it's just like a great match.
yeah, yeah. But you know, when I used to walk my old dog Lucy, I didn't need to give a lot of corrections. I could put in a podcast, I could put in my AirPods, I could listen to music, I'd go for a walk. And it's been really cool to just be like present with Sophie as I walk, knowing that she's still learning how to walk on a leash. So I got to give corrections. She has to hear me. I want to hear her. You know what I mean? Or like hear what's going on. And it's been really nice to just not have that, you know, not have kind of music in my ears or a podcast and stuff. So yeah, I've been kind of doing a little bit of that myself.
Yeah. I love that. It's amazing what we can learn from our pets,
Oh,
isn't it?
I have this idea recently of having like a book about like something from Lucy, like lessons from Lucy or something. You know, because dogs
Ooh.
do teach us so much. Like she taught me so much about grief, but they teach you about presence. You know, like there's a whole lot of lessons that yeah that I think that we can learn from dogs and forgiveness, all the things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
maybe those will pop up in the themes for your class.
yeah,
Lessons from
maybe,
Lucy.
maybe lessons from Lucy. We'll see. Oh, all right, David. Well, thank you for this wonderful conversation. I think this was a really good class, and I think it fueled a lot of good conversation as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and love talking to you about this all as always. Can you tell everybody about Chime In again, just to give them a
Absolutely.
reminder?
Yeah. Head to the website. There's a link at the top called Chime In, and if you've got a question, if you've got something to share with us, you can record a voice memo. You can type it in text and send it over. And but we'll also ask a question, you know, every couple weeks, a new question that kind of that we can theme and matches what we're teaching. And so I think we're going to change it probably next week for my classes. Like I'll probably change directions for the theme. But the question here was, where in your life are you overextending, and what's making it hard to pull back? So if you do want to answer that, please, we'd love to hear your voices. But otherwise, next week as I present a new class, we'll switch that up a little bit. So yeah, and I look forward to my first hour-long class in a very long time next week for Trudy.
What a treat. That's gonna be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Take care, y'all. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope we see you next week.